Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is my first phone review, so bear with me, it might be a bit rough around the edges. So for some context, I've been using the Galaxy Note 9 for the last 18 months, almost 2 years I guess, and I did think it was time for an upgrade. So I decided to go for the OnePlus 8 Pro. This is the nice big red box it comes in. Here's the phone here. Not going to waste too much time on the intro. It's a bit of a monster in terms of specs, as you can see. That's one of the things that drew me to it. I got the 128 gig storage and the 8 gig RAM version for £799. And yeah, this is the review. The build quality overall is really good. It's one of the best I've seen in a phone. Annoyingly, the Onyx Black that I got is glossy backed, not matte. It looks nice, but it doesn't feel as nice as maybe the matte versions do. It doesn't bother me too much because OnePlus have some of the best cases around, and I got their sandstone back case. And the sandstone case is matte black and it looks awesome. And it feels great as well. It's really grippy, which is what I love about their cases. It's the finish they pioneered with their OnePlus One, and they've kept it going as cases. And yeah, as first party cases go, you can't really beat OnePlus. So yeah, I'm happy with that overall. Everything's glass and metal around the phone, so it feels great. They finally added Ip68 Waterproofing, which is great. I just said Ip68, which is a common mistake most people say, but it's actually Ip68. So the 6 is the dust resistance and the 8 is the water resistance. But yeah, OnePlus have avoided putting this on their phones for years. They've always said that they're passing the cost savings on to us, but to be honest, I'm glad they've now paid for the certification. So it just makes me feel a bit more confident overall that the phone's going to last. Even if that's just a psychological thing, it's just nice to have. Especially if you want to use your phone near pools, that kind of stuff. And you know, I live in England, so using it in the rain is a big must. But yeah, so moving on to performance, we've got Android 10 out of the box like you'd expect, running OnePlus's Oxygen OS, which is a really nice clean skin of Android. I say skin, but really there's very little UI changes. It's mainly just a few performance tweaks here or there and some customization options, which I'll get into later. But Oxygen OS really is a breath of fresh air, excuse the pun, if you've used other heavy Android skins recently. So for the CPU, we got the Snapdragon 865, which is Qualcomm's latest and greatest, and the GPU is the Adreno 650. So the CPU is 8 cores. You got one main prime fast core, which goes up to 2.8 GHz. You got 3 more fast cores, which go up to 2.4 GHz. And then you got 4 sort of lower performance cores to handle less difficult tasks, which go up to 1.8 GHz. Benchmarks wise, nothing really too much to read into, but it does seem to compete well with the A13 on multi-core, not so much on single core. But yeah, I'll leave a link to some detailed benchmarks if you want to check those out. They don't really bother me. The main thing is the phone feels fast and smooth, which obviously it does, so that's great. So RAM wise, you've got 2 options. You've got 8 gig or 12 gig of LPDDR5 RAM. So LPDDR5, probably most people probably not going to care what that is. It's faster RAM, I guess. The regular OnePlus 8 only comes with LPDDR4. I doubt you're going to notice much difference in the speed, but it's nice anyway. I've got the Onyx Black version, so in the UK that's the one with 8 gig RAM. The colour meant more to me than getting more RAM. Well, the Glacial Green does look really nice. I just prefer phones in black, and I've got my nice matte black case as well, so that's great. I mean, 12 gig of RAM, I doubt it's going to make much difference to be honest, even in the long term. My Note 9 that I had for the last couple of years had 8 gig RAM as well, and I think like the most I ever pushed it to was about 4 gigs. So yeah, even 8 gigs is a bit overkill, but you know, nice to have, I guess. Storage wise, again, you got 2 options. You got 128 gigs or 256, and they're both UFS 3.0 storage. So you can see from the benchmarks that it's really fast storage, which is great. This is starting to become the norm on high-end phones, but it's not everywhere yet. So again, another nice to have. It just means your phone's generally going to be snappier, apps are going to load faster, that kind of stuff. Again, no complaints. When you throw all those specs together and then you add in the 120Hz panel to make everything extra smooth, everything's going to feel really fast and great, and it does all the time. I've not noticed any hits of performance at all, no matter how many apps I've got open or what I'm doing. So that's great. So I guess the other thing people care about with performance is how does it game? I'm not a massive gamer, especially on my phone, but I checked out a few of them. Brawl Stars is pretty good because it runs at 120 frames a second, which is pretty nice. It'd be nice to see some more games support this in the future, but it's good to see OnePlus working with some developers to get that working. I checked out Call of Duty Mobile as well. I've not played this game a lot, but it seemed to be pretty decent, and yeah, again, everything is very smooth and very stable. The phone didn't get hot at all as well, which was nice, and yeah, it's a pretty good gaming experience. One of the standout features of the OnePlus 8 Pro is the display. It's 6.78 inches from corner to corner, and it's got a resolution of 3168 by 1440. So it's basically 1440p but extended to accommodate the larger display. It is OLED, which is great. I really like OLED screens. And as I mentioned earlier, it's 120Hz, which I didn't think I'd notice that much because I have an iPad Pro which is also 120Hz, but when you turn it on the OnePlus 8 Pro, it's pretty amazing. I also set my animations to half speed, so when you couple half speed animations at 120Hz, the speed just feels incredible. Again, it's something that's hard to show on camera, but once you see it, it's hard to go back. So it does have a little cutout in the top left hand corner of the screen, so that keeps the bezels slim and still gives you a front facing camera. Some people see it as a downgrade from the OnePlus 7 Pro, which had it as a mechanical mechanism, but this helps with the IP68 water resistance, so I don't really mind too much because after a few hours it just sort of blends in and you don't really see it. In terms of other features, they've included a mode they call MEMC, which is, I can't remember what it stands for, but it's basically motion smoothing. Even though the phone screen is 120Hz, most content nowadays is shot in 24 frames per second and 30 frames per second, and some of it's 60. So what MEMC does, it adds extra frames to that content to make it look like it's all been shot 120. I don't turn this on. I'm not really that bothered about making things look smooth, making videos look smoother. I'd rather look at them in the frame rate that the person originally shot them at. Unless it's for sports. Maybe if I was watching sports on here, then I'd probably turn it on because yeah, I'd like that to look pretty smooth. It's nice to have the option, it's nice it's there. Two features I really like, again they're about the display. You've got reading mode. I have it set to automatically come on in the Kindle app. So you can see here it's in colour, then I click into the Kindle app and it starts to go black and white. It's not quite e-ink, but there's a lot less glare and it makes it a much nicer experience for reading books on your phone, so that's great. Another mode you've got is Ambient Display. This gives you a clock and a summary of your notifications, if you have any, and it also shows where to put your thumb on or finger for the fingerprint sensor. So it's not an always on display like some other phones have, but I prefer this because I don't really want to see my screen. I don't want to see my notifications all the time. So yeah, you can get to this feature by tapping to wake. You can also lift up the phone and it'll show as well. Again, I prefer that because you don't want to see your notifications all the time, but for a quick glance it's pretty great. It's up there with the best Samsung screens I've seen and the best iPhone screens as well, and yeah, the combination of the high resolution, the great colour profile and the 120Hz is just a really nice screen. I would maybe like the curves on the edge to be slightly less aggressive. That's something Samsung have tended towards recently, is making it less curved. Although it does look nice, it does maybe distort the viewing angles a little bit. It's just one of those things you just don't notice after a while. Overall, it's a really great display, and I think it competes, like I said, at the high end, which again, for the price of the phone, is amazing. Okay, so battery-wise, we're looking at a 4,510 mAh battery. It's not the biggest nowadays. I mean, the S20 Ultra has a 5,000 mAh battery. You've got the ROG Phone 2, which goes even further to 6,000. I'd have liked to maybe push it to 5,000. I think that would have been a nice sweet spot. But I suppose it's a compromise between thickness and battery life. I'd always take a thicker phone with a bigger battery, but 4,500 is still plenty big. So I'm going to run a couple of tests. I'm going to do my first day at 1080p and 60Hz. So that's sort of like a maybe standard setting, just to see what kind of battery life I can get on that. The day after that, I'm going to go full on QHD Plus and 120Hz and see how that goes. But yeah, so let's get to it. So you can see it's 25 hours since my last charge, and I've had 7 hours and 15 minutes of screen on time as well. So that's pretty good. I'm very happy with that. So that I was testing it with the screen resolution set to 1080p and the refresh rate set at 60Hz. Obviously that's not the settings for best performance, but I just wanted to see basically how long I could push the battery. And I'm pretty pleased with that. 7 hours 15 screen on time, even though most of it was on Wi-Fi. I mean, that's still pretty good. I think overnight it dropped about 8%, which is not the best, but it's much better than most, I think. So it's pretty stellar battery life so far. So yeah, you can imagine if you unplugged on the morning and you didn't have that long standby time that was the overnight, you'd be getting pretty good life. So I set everything to QHD Plus and 120Hz just to see what I could get out of that. Again, no travel really, so everything on Wi-Fi because of the lockdown. So I got to 24 hours again, total time, and 6 hours 45 minutes screen on time. So not bad really. A little bit shorter than yesterday, but this is 120Hz and QHD Plus, so that's pretty good. So I'm probably going to settle on leaving it at 1080p and 120Hz, because 120Hz is pretty awesome. But QHD Plus, I didn't really notice much difference. So yeah, it's early days, but it looks like the battery is going to be pretty reliable. Hopefully it holds up over time, and obviously I'll have to do some more tests when we can go outside and stuff properly. But yeah, not a bad start. So now that I've tested draining the battery, we've got to talk about the few different ways that you've got to charge the battery. So the main one that you've got is Warp Charge 30T. So it's 30 watt wire charging, and it's done at 5 volts and 6 amps. It's a proprietary method that OnePlus has developed, and basically what it does is it allows the phone to stay cool while all the heat is being dealt with at the charger's end. This is pretty good for battery health, because obviously everyone knows if you have a battery that gets hot, that lessens the life of it long term. So it's good that they've got this method, and they've now also got wireless charging at 30 watts as well. So I can't test that out because I don't have their wireless charger, because you need to have the OnePlus one for that. But it does work on any Qi charger at, I think, up to 15 watts, which is still pretty quick. And I mainly use wireless charging at night for convenience rather than speed. So I probably won't be looking at getting their charger, because like I said, I see it more of a convenience thing. Just pop the phone down on a stand and just leave it overnight. So I'm not too bothered about speed really. So I'm not too bothered about speed for wireless charging, but still it's pretty cool that they've been able to get it that fast. It does also support USB-C PD charging. So I'm going to go over that. We'll charge up the phone on my PD charger, see how that goes. So OnePlus I think also included a optimized charging mode, which I quite like. So I'm going to leave that on all the time. And what it does, it tries to learn your routine. So I mainly charge my phone at night. Obviously when you're charging at night, like I mentioned with the wireless charging, you don't need the fastest speed, because you're intending to be asleep for 7-8 hours. You don't need your phone to charge up in an hour and be 100%. So what it'll do, it'll fast charge up to a point and then slowly charge the rest of the way so that it gets to 100% just before you wake up. So again, this is another good feature for battery health, because if you're fast charging your phone all the time, again, it's just more heat, more battery degradation over time. So again, I'm really pleased that they've included that feature, because that's something that will help your phone last a long time, which is great to see. You can also put You can also put a Qi device on the back of your phone and charge at 3 watts. I've seen in some adverts for phones that have this feature, they've been advertising putting your friend's phone on top of it, kind of like this kind of situation, and then having your friend's phone charge incredibly slowly off of it. Which, yeah, I mean, you can do it, but I don't know why you'd want to. It's still a useful feature, but I mainly see it being in use as stuff for like your smartwatches or maybe your wireless earbuds. So when you're traveling and you need to charge those quickly, you can just pop them on the back of your phone. Again, it's one of those things, it's nice to have, maybe not essential, but it's a nice to have feature. Definitely handy though if you travel a lot and you only want to take maybe one cable to charge your phone. You can still charge your headphones or your smartwatch, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's nice to have. So let's go have a look at some of the speeds of those charging methods I mentioned earlier. Okay, so first off, I'm trying out the warp charging. So this is the included charger in the box. You can see it's got a nice animation when it plugs in. And you can see here that it quite quickly gets up to the full 30 watts. And it's doing it at about 4.5 volts and almost 7 amps. Which is, the rated speed is 5 volts, 6 amps. So it's basically, it's around that. It's great that this charger is included in the box, but it is pretty expensive if you want to get a replacement. I think it's about 30 quid for the charger and another 10, 20 quid for the cable. So yeah, don't lose it if you want to get the fastest speeds out of your OnePlus 8 Pro. Okay, now I'm going to try out USB PD charging. So it does support PD, but only up to a certain amount. So you can still see it says charging rapidly, and you get a reasonably nice animation as well. Again, it quite quickly gets up to a reasonable speed. And yeah, the phone does say it's charging rapidly. It's supposed to get up to 5 volts, 3 amps. For some reason, it's not quite doing that with my Apple charger, but it's still getting up to 12 watts. I think it should be able to do 15 watts, but maybe it just takes a bit of time to get up there. It's nice that it supports PD charging at a reasonable speed, because that's what the majority of the chargers are out there in the world. So, for example, in my car and stuff, I'm just going to carry on using the PD charger I've got as it is, because it's quick enough for what I need. And it means I don't have to go out and buy tons of warp chargers. But yeah, pretty nice overall. So, onto the camera now. You've got the standard wide lens, the ultra wide lens, and also a 3x telephoto lens. And there's also lots of different modes. You've got obviously video, slow motion, panorama, time lapse, and a few other bits and bobs. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the majority are here. Nightscape, which is nice to have. There's also a lot of settings you can change. So you've got HDR settings. You can put a watermark on if you want for some reason. You can change the exposure settings. Lots of stuff basically. So onto some samples. On the left is macro mode off. Right is macro mode on. It's quite a cool feature to have this. You can see it makes a difference. Left is nightscape off. Right is nightscape on. Again, it's pretty handy, it makes the pictures look a bit better. Same again here, left is nightscape off, and on the right is nightscape on. So you can see it does make a difference in low light. Now on the left here you got the regular lens, and on the right is the ultra wide from the same position. And same again, left is regular, right is ultra wide. So you can see it makes quite a big difference, you get quite a different perspective. And then this from the same position is left regular and right is the 3x telephoto. It's a pretty good zoom level actually, it's quite handy. So this is regular, ultra wide, and now telephoto. So you can see the differences it makes. So now onto some video samples. Okay, so this is a test of 4K 30 frames per second. So I can't really go to too many places, so just in my back garden. So they have been able to add their super steady mode to the 4K 30. And obviously this is from the OnePlus's microphone. Okay, and same again, but this is in the cinema mode, which gives you a wider aspect ratio. And you can switch between ultra wide, normal, and telephoto on the fly. Okay, and this is the 4K 60 FPS. You don't get the ultra steady stabilization with it, but still pretty smooth. So this is 1080p at 240 frames per second, so part of the slow motion mode. You can do 720p at 480 frames a second. It's not the slowest that you can get. I think Sony go up to 960, but it's still pretty nice to have. It's not the best in low light, but in daylight you can get some pretty cool shots. So to complete the quad camera setup, it also has a color filter camera. So far I found this to be pretty useless, but you can see infrared on it, which is quite cool. So this is just showing the Face ID that it sees from my iPad Pro. Pretty useless, but it's interesting to see anyway. Okay, moving on to connectivity. So the phone is 4G and 5G capable. It supports tons of 4G and 5G bands, so I'll leave a link to those rather than just listing them out. Wi-Fi wise, it supports Wi-Fi 6. I don't have a Wi-Fi 6 router, but I do have pretty fast internet, and I've tried a few tests just on the general Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi performance is pretty great. I'm easily getting 500 meg out of my AC router, which is pretty good. It's along the lines, it's on par with my iPad Pro and other devices that I have in terms of Wi-Fi performance. Other things, you got the standard Bluetooth 5.1 NFC as well, which is great for mobile payments. You've got the full suite of GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, Beidou, so I think that covers all. So that's the American system, the European system, the European system, the Russian system, and the Chinese system for satellite navigation. You got them all in the phone, so that's great. You're covered wherever you're going to go. Other connectivity stuff. So the phone does support USB 3.1 Gen 1. So that's got transfer speeds of up to 5 gigabits a second. So that's when you connect maybe an SSD to it, or if you're transferring files off it to a computer. This is really great if you're using the 4K modes in the camera. Your file sizes are going to be pretty big, so if you want to transfer them to your PC, that's still probably the easiest way, is over USB. Sadly, the cable they include, the warp charge cable, is only USB 2. So if you do want to get the full transfer speeds, you'll need a USB 3 cable. But I'd imagine, if you've got a USB 3 capable computer, most of you are going to have a cable that's compatible kicking around, so that's good. What else? It is dual SIM. At the moment, if you're using 5G, you can only have one SIM in, or you could have two SIMs operating both on 4G. They are going to add a mode to have one SIM on 5G and one SIM on 4G later on, but that's not available yet, but it's coming, so that's handy. There's no headphone jack, but it does support normal Type-C earphones. It's a little bit of a bummer. It'd be nice to sort of differentiate by keeping the headphone jack, but I'm not going to miss it too much. it's just one of those things that it would have been nice to keep. So, any other business? One thing I love about Oxygen OS, and especially on the OnePlus 8 Pro, there's lots of customization available. So you can change your accent color, you can change the icon shapes, you can change the icon pack as well by default, which is already handy. You can change what you see in your status bar. And on most phones, you wouldn't be able to do this at all. Some phones you'd have to install other apps to do this, but having them all built in is really nice, especially for the sort of especially for the Android community who love to customize their phones. I really love that this option is there. They also, I think, have a slightly better gesture system than Google. So you can leave the default pill bar at the bottom if you want, but I've turned the bar off and I'm still using the gestures, and you can see here they're really smooth. They look great on the 120Hz display, and they do seem to work just a bit better. And they do support third-party launchers as well, which the normal Google ones don't. So that's great. You've also got a few quick gestures. You can use a 3-finger drag to take a screenshot. If someone calls you, you can just flip the phone to mute it, so that's nice. If you do get a phone call and you want to answer it for some reason, all you got to do is raise the phone to your ear and then you can just answer the call. You can also do something they introduced in the OnePlus 1 and they've kept to this day. When the screen's off, you can draw certain gestures, so you could draw like a circle and you can map that to whatever command you want. So here I've got drawing a circle opens the torch, and that it works. You've got 4 different options, so that's nice. You can customize that to whatever you want. One thing that's new this year, if you have once you have your fingerprint set up, you can do quick launches through that. So I'll just show you that. So you tap there to get your fingerprint open. Put your fingerprint on, hold up, and then swipe up, and then look, I've gone straight into WhatsApp. Pretty cool. And yeah, other than that, the features are generally the same that you get on any other OnePlus. There's plenty that makes it unique, which is great. And yeah, overall, when you look at the package, I think it's a really good phone. So like I said, I got the 8GB RAM, 128GB ROM in the UK, so it's £799. So when you compare them to other phones in the market, although it's expensive for a OnePlus phone, I still think it's pretty good value overall. So yeah, I'm really happy with the phone, and it's definitely something I'm going to keep, and hopefully it's going to be my phone for a long time to come. So yeah, if you've got any questions about it, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to try and answer them. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. That really helped me out. And I will catch you in the next one.